Hello, everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. Man, do I have a treat for you. If you like Whitesnake, if you like Dio, if you like the Dead Daisies that you see here behind me, then you're going to love this interview. It's with none other than Doug Aldrich, guitar player. And he, of course, had been with those other bands I just mentioned. And we took about 30 minutes or so to chat about a new best of album that the Dead Daisies are releasing that is commemorating their 10-year anniversary of existence. And man, what a legacy this band has. All sorts of great names have come through there playing, and the new lineup is some of the older people and one or two new ones. As Doug says, is almost like 3/4 of Whitesnake, but it's a great sound. I've heard some cuts, and you guys are going to really love that album. So if you're a Whitesnake fan, if you're a Dio fan, if you're a Dead Daisies fan especially, please watch this interview. Like it here on YouTube. Subscribe if you're not already. That helps us. Won't cost you a dime. And please share this with your friends and ask them to do the same. So without any further ado, here's my first interview with the great Doug Aldrich. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Hello, Doug.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I like your backdrop. Looks
I
cool.
thought you might. Where are you dialing in from?
I am at home in LA.
Oh, okay. All righty. Yeah, because I read in your bio you're from the other side of the mountain from me. I'm in Sevierville, Tennessee. That you're originally.
Is that right?
Yeah, you were born in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
That's all right. That's what I was getting at there. It's your hometown. So well, hey.
Yeah. I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then we moved north a little bit to Maryland. We lived in Pennsylvania, and then I came to California.
Ah, okay. So you pretty much grew up in California?
Yeah. I mean, my family stayed on the East Coast, so it's unfortunate, when you're 18 and you say, "Oh, I'm going to cut out and go, play music on the other side of the country." It's like, okay, probably come back, but I never did. And now, it's like, it's a whole thing to get my family to go to the East Coast to see the rest of the family. So, that's the only downside. Otherwise, I love it. I love the move I made, and I've been really lucky to be here this whole time.
No, it served you well. I'm very similar. I was born not far from here, but I grew up in Phoenix. So, and I came back here about almost 10 years ago. So, that's similar, except I'm not a great guitar player like you are. So,
well, I enjoy what I do. If I'm good at it, that's a bonus. But I love it.
Well, good deal. Well, hey, before we get into the Dead Daisies Best of album and the tour and all that kind of stuff, I'm just curious. I like talking with musicians about what they've done during their COVID vacation. And I was just curious, what did you do to during that whole lockdown time and where we were being,
There was two things I did. One was I renovated my house.
Oh.
So we gutted our house and added a bedroom and a couple bathrooms. And but it was great because we rented a house just a couple doors down that happened to come available. And I would just basically wake up and walk over, just walk down the street a little bit and meet with the contractors. And that kept me busy, and ended up spending a lot of time here making decisions that I wouldn't have been able to make if I was traveling or, I don't know if you've ever done that, but basically things happen and decisions need to be made all the time.
Right on the spot too, otherwise you're delaying things by days, weeks, and months. So yeah, I get you. So it worked out very well for you. That's cool.
That part. And the other part was, I did a bunch of writing and stuff during a section of the summertime in 20. So it was me and Glenn were able to get together. He lives in LA, and so at that time Glenn was at home as well.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've talked to Glenn. I've only interviewed him once. It was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. One of his solo albums that came out, and I love his work, man. What an
Yeah,
icon he is, huh? You
he
know.
surely is. He surely is.
So the Dead Daisies. Wow, I didn't realize it's been 10 years since you guys launched. And when I look at you guys, I'm blown away by the all the different people that have been in the band. I mean, top shelf, all of you, man. And it's you look at the Dead Daisies as a fan, and I'm a non-musician, right? I just play a mean air guitar, and that's about it. But to look at the legacy of everybody that's come through there, and the sound that the band has put out and represents it, I mean, it really blows my mind at what
Well,
all you guys have done.
there's it's similar to a lot of bands actually. They just when David started the band, he basically wanted to have it be an open relationship, and have it be where people could come and go. And um, there have been some long-standing lineups. So it's 10 years in a band is pretty good. So there's been some long-standing lineups for a couple of years here, a couple of years there, and they've all been the ones I've been part of. I feel have been really fun and worked out well. Um, and like bands that don't have an open relationship, they still make changes. I mean, how many members have been in whatever band is? There's always going to be changes that happen, but the Dead Daisies is kind of known for that. And
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's weird. Like I think of guys like John Corabi.
Mhm.
John has just recently come back to the band, and I feel like he's kind of like the staple singer of the band. I mean, there's been John Stevens, there's been Glenn Hughes, but John Corabi's probably time wise been involved the most and on the most recordings, probably. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, although there's been some changes in and out, John Corabi still is in the Dead Daisies. It's pretty cool.
Cool. So as you reflect on the band and its existence and all that, for you as a member and have played a lot in it, what all comes to mind to you most when you think of the Dead Daisies? I mean, looking back on
Uh,
10 years.
I mean, this particular this particular sound that we've kind of got, that's a straight ahead rock and roll, in your face kind of gutsy sound. Um, and I think guitar in general, it's guitar driven. Since I've been involved in the band, I didn't have the luxury to play with Dizzy, who's an amazing keyboard player.
Mhm.
But when I got in the band, Dizzy was going back to GNR with Richard Fortus, and David Lowy said, "I want to make this more guitar driven." So I was like, "Cool, let's do it." And like I say, I think of we've done a lot of touring. So I think of the tours that we've done as being a highlight. Really, it's getting
Mhm.
to play this stuff live.
Yep. Gosh, you mentioned Dizzy. I forgot he was in the band. Gosh, when did I interview him? I think he was down in Brazil, and we did a phone well, I've been here 10 years now, so I had to be about 11, 12 years ago. And I mean, what a great guy, and
He
amazing
is.
for this, man. Wow.
Yeah. He really is. He's like plays he plays by feel and from his gut, it seems. And he of course he's been with Guns N' Roses forever. He's probably the
Right.
longest member, maybe, I guess. But he back in I guess it was around in the mid 90s, I did a couple of solo records it was just for me to experiment, have fun, to try some different styles and whatnot. And I had this kind of fusiony, it's kind of a mellow fusiony type of song that it was, some people think it's got a little bit of a Steely Dan vibe to it. Some people think it's got a kind of a Jeff Beck vibe, but I wanted keywords, and my buddy put me in touch with Dizzy, and Dizzy came over and he played on, I think, 3 songs overall. But this song, what he played, he did it in like one take. And it was very like these different chord changes. And it still blows my mind. I don't even know what the chords are. I don't even know if he knows what the chords are. He was just playing from his gut, really.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was incredible. It totally makes it, you know. And so every time I see him, I think of that time he came over and he just brought his keyboard and he's just playing. But he's fantastic.
As a non-musician and fan, to me, when I hear musicians that I know are, they're not formally trained, they're self-taught, they don't know how to read music, but listening to them be able to just, whether it's guitar, keyboards, whatever, to be able to just step in, feel the vibe, and get right into it. I mean, that's not lost on, music enthusiasts like me that don't know what,
Yeah.
don't know how to play, but you, as a fan, you sense it. You just feel what's going on, and you can see it between the band members, and then the crowd feels it, or the listener feels it.
There's something that there's the thing about that. It's like, okay, you got these musicians that are incredibly knowledgeable, like they know everything that they're doing, and they can use that to their advantage. It's basically like they know the rules, so they know when they can break them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you got other musicians who, to learn that theory and everything, would kind of freak them out a little,
mess them up
too much. It's like, yeah, it's better. Don't think, just play. That's kind of. I mean, I know a little theory, a little bit of stuff, but really, my best moments are when I'm not thinking, when I'm just playing from the gut. That's for me the most rewarding and successful, is when I'm in the zone.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll talk about the tour in a minute, but tell me about this Best Of album. What are your thoughts on it? I've heard a few cuts, and first of all, I've got to say, even though I love your original stuff, hearing you guys cover Fortunate Son, oh my God, that just, that's, to me, that's just you guys knock it out of the park.
Well, thank you. No, we as we both were discussing, 10 years in a band is 10 years for a band is a healthy, that's a good run. So it was kind of a situation where it kind of snuck up on us. And, I wasn't a founding member of the band, but I've been in the band since 2016. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like time flies, And so we wanted to, as it came to 10 years, we decided, let's put something out that's kind of something that would represent the entire era. And so that covered everything, something from all 6 of the studio albums, kind of thing. And also, show the various lineups that had been in, with the start of, this amazing singer, John Stevens, really talented and killer. And then of course, John Corabi, that's when I first heard the band, was doing another cover, Midnight Moses. And that lineup featured some guitar, David Lowe. About that, it's a funny thing, because I've known John Corabi since we were kids. It's like, wow, in 10th grade I met John, and in Philadelphia. Yeah, I've known him forever. We never played together until the Dead Daisies, but he used to play. We used to go to the clubs in New Jersey, and you could sneak in if you get a little ID that said you were 19. You could get into the clubs, even if you were 15 or whatever. And there was a band called the Dead End Kids, and they played this song Midnight Moses by Alex Harvey Group, and it was like that was their thing. When they played that riff and they started to do this move thing, it was really big, and it was something that everyone would talk about. And then I forgot about it for years and years and years and years. And then finally I see, and Corabi knew about it. He'd seen them. He probably did gigs with them. And years later, I'm watching YouTube, and I wanted to see what the Dead Daisies were up to, with Brian, my bro, and John, who I knew, and Marco, my bro from Whitesnake. I ended up doing Midnight Moses. I'm like, oh my God, Corabi must have told him about that song, because I'm telling you, man, like 30 years went by, nobody talked about that song. And then all of a sudden the Dead Daisies got this really cool video with it, and Fortis was tearing it up. And that's how I found out about the Daisies. So anyway, back to the songs on the best of. We wanted to have something represent all the eras with all the different players and different lineups, and then most recently with obviously with Glenn Hughes. So there's a little bit of everything on there from all the eras, and it's kind of cool. It's like a trip down memory lane. I know that sounds goofy, but yeah, it's like
It's true.
type
So
of thing.
why, I mean, I know as a fan why I think the Dead Daisies catalog has such legs, but from the inside out, what is your take on it? Why do you think the band's music stands strong still, and there's still a demand, and people want to see you guys perform and all that kind of thing? What is it about it that you think?
Well, there's always been really good people involved, and the Dead Daisies has a really strong support group of management and promotion and social media people that have been helpful in spreading the word about the band. And it's basically just a band of, like, these are my bros. It's just we're having fun making music. I don't know if I'm not gonna. You can't really rate art or something. You can just tell if you like it or not.
Right.
But we've had the luxury of playing in a lot of different bands individually, and so we've got friends from those eras. I got my friends from Whitesnake and Dio and stuff, and then Karabi obviously has got his, and Glenn and Brian and everybody brings something in, and so it's basically the fans and our friends. I call them friends more than fans because we're all basically the same age. We all dig music, either playing it or listening to it, and it's the fans that have kept us working as best as we can. They've been great to us, and we it's a blessing, man.
Yeah, it is. I can imagine. So this tour, and speaking of fans, they're going to get to see you guys on tour. I was looking
Yeah.
at the lineup, and you already kind of touched on it. Um, Share with fans when they hear this for the first time, who is the lineup now from beginning to, from top to bottom, from mic to drums,
Okay. Well, it's funny that you bring up Mike, because you're talking microphone, but we also got the newest addition into the Dead Daisies is Michael Bannon on bass and vocals, and Michael is incredible. I'm sorry, I'm going to move so you don't hear that happen to me. Sorry, Ben.
Okay.
Michael he is an incredible player and singer, and he's like going to be our secret weapon, because he just brings it, and he's such a solid player, and he's actually been we worked together in Whitesnake. He's worked with Brian Tishy for years, and the two of those guys together are awesome. And so Brian Tishy on drums, amazing player. Everybody that knows Brian knows how great he is. Just all around, great musician, songwriter. And I like to say that Brian, he would never say this, but he definitely makes everybody better when they play with him, because he pulls you in a good, like, for me, he knows my playing, he knows what I can do, or what I whatever strengths I can do, and he kind of plays to those advantage, to that as an advantage, and it's great. And then of course David Lowy, who's the founder of the band, on rhythm guitar, and actually he's playing a couple solos as well now, which is really cool. He's got a very youthful approach, which is really cool, because sometimes you maybe it's the music they grew up listening to. He's got to him, as a guy that I've played a lot of different styles over the years, and technically challenging things. And so when I hear just this straight up ballsy rhythm, it's like, yeah, that's right. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and then myself. So John Corabi, we talked about. John's back. John is, I like I've been, as you know, I've been blessed to work with Ronnie James Dio, David Coverdale, Glenn Hughes, and John Corabi is right there to me. He's in the best way. He's the greasiest and mother sucker. you know, he's like greasy rock and roll, and not like literally greasy. He's slick and cool, and he's a rocker at heart. And, you know, he he's an amazing frontman MC. So when you go to a concert with John, people know uh, it's like a party. It's like a backyard barbecue type of thing, and he knows how to get people into it, and it's great, man. Great working with him. Like I say, I've known him since we were kids. So I'm super stoked about getting ready for this tour. We're starting rehearsal in a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
or actually a week. Um, we're going to rehearse, and then we will have a little week off or so, and then we'll start up in Vineland, New Jersey, at a place called the Landis Theater.
Yeah. Well, I was just getting ready to ask you about it. I looked at the itinerary and some great stops. It's just, none in my neck of the woods. What's up with that? Yeah.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there later. We only had a certain amount of time that we could slot in for the U.S. and Canada. So we're trying to basically just cover a few of the spots that we have been to before, and they asked us to come back a few times. So that's what we're trying to do. And then we got a little time off in October, and then we head to Japan,
Right.
which is awesome. You forget. I've gone to Japan in my life probably dozens of times, like maybe 30 times. I don't know how many times, but I started going there in 1987, and it's just such an amazing place. It's been about 5 years since we've been there, so I, kind of lost touch with it a little bit since pandemic and all that. But we're getting to go, and we go straight from Japan to Europe. We're going to do a few weeks in Europe, then we're taking a couple weeks off, then we go back to Europe again and wind up kind of middle of December.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll keep an eye on the itinerary and see if you get in within driving distance, and maybe I can catch a show and bump elbows with you or something then. So
Absolutely, Randy. You're always welcome, man. It'd be great to see you.
yeah, well, likewise. A couple more questions for you real quick before you run. Is there you've told me what's going on, what else is going on with Dead Daisies? Is there going to be more album work going on? Any new music coming out?
We have not officially done anything, made any plans other than this promoting this best of right now, because it's really we want to kind of celebrate 10 years with our all the friends we've made over these years, and get out there and play a little bit with this lineup. I feel like this is Marco Mendoza is an amazing bass player. Glenn Hughes is an amazing bass player, but we're really excited to have Michael Devin involved. And now we've got like three-fifths of the band is we played in Whitesnake together. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like a mini Whitesnake in a sense,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we're always, everybody's always writing. There's always some riffs floating around. We were in rehearsal a month and a half ago, just kind of blowing the dust off stuff, and a riff happened, and which I just reminded myself. So I want to go ahead and make a recording of that for everybody, because it was a pretty cool. It basically turned into a full song. So
Cool.
Who knows? We might do something next year. We'll see.
Cool. How about you? You going to be doing anything solo wise coming up?
I am not really. I'm full dedicated to Dead Daisies, and the time that I do have off when I'm home, I'm basically doing maybe some sessions or whatever, playing a little bit here and there, some jams. There's at my daughter's school, there's a bunch of fathers that play music, and like these guys are professional, like doctors or stuff like that. Like there's this one guy, he's he's a doctor. He works all night and then he wants to jam. He see me at the drop off and he's like, dude, let's go jam. I'm like, but you worked all night. He goes, I don't care, man. Let's play some.
That's cool.
So we like do some jamming, and then during the pandemic, it's funny that you talked about earlier. Talked about the pandemic. I don't know if that's part of the interview, but we talked about what we did during the pandemic, and I forgot to mention that we were all stuck in home and didn't really know what to do. Didn't have anywhere to really go, and I had a motorcycle. I've always had motorcycles since I was a kid, and had a Harley in the garage, but I would never really ride that much since I got little kids. I just basically wanted to be with them on the weekends, and then plus I'd lost touch with a lot of people. But I started seeing pictures online of Gilby Clark and a bunch of his bros and some people I know, friends of his, and they were like hanging out down by the beach, and they were all greased up. It was just like they were out riding, and they looked like the Allman Brothers, hanging out. And so I happened to run into Gilby at a guitar center down the street, and I go, dude, I really want to ride with you sometimes. He goes, well, call me, man. We go out every Sunday or Saturday. We do all these rides. So I started riding with those guys, and that's been at home, like I can sneak out, a little bit on Sundays and do
Cool.
that. So
You got to do something for
so
yourself once in a while. Yeah.
well, playing guitar is still my number one hobby. That's my number one thing. It's my I wake up and I have guitars all around, and once the house gets empty, I can play and practice and write and do whatever like that.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of guitars, I told you earlier, I'm not a musician, but I love guitars. I love the shape. I love the history of them. I kick over to Bonamassa channel every once in a while, and he's always noodling with something he just bought, but for you, I know you play mostly Les Paul and such. Is in your mind, is there a holy grail of guitars, and do you own it?
Well, I've got some killer guitars, but the holy grail is probably, that 59 Les Paul, 1959 Les Paul. And I don't own one. Wished I did. I wished I'd invested in one back in the 80s when I could have, you could buy. Well, see, but then back in the 80s, I didn't have $10,000, but that's, for 10 or 20 grand, I think you could get that guitar. And
Such a steal.
yeah. And at that time, people didn't really, everyone loved them. It was a thing already, but now those guitars are fetching anywhere from 3 to 4 or over $400,000.
Yep. Yep.
And so people, once you get into that world, I think you can kind of, you can maneuver gear a little bit, and then you can trade up and get this one and that one, and then you can trade those two for one, and eventually get to the point where you can get your hands on the real one.
Yeah.
I do have a 1959 Les Paul Jr. So
really cool.
That's a killer guitar. I bought it from a guy that was working for the Counting Crows band, and I got it for a really good, really good deal a while back, and I have a 56 Junior as well. Those are my two oldies.
Nice.
And then I've got a bunch of 70s and 60s guitars, but that late 50s is the holy grail.
I used to live in Dallas, and I'd always catch Jimmy Wallace's, Dallas International Guitar Festival. And one year before I moved from there, I went and they had a display of the guitars that were sold in Clapton's auction. So I saw Blackie, I saw some historic gear there, and man, wow.
He sold Brownie too, right?
I think so. I don't recall, but that now that you say that, I think so. But my gosh, I was only, a foot away from them, but they were in plexiglass. But just to look at that history was, it gave me goosebumps. So, But
yeah, that's amazing. Those, the history. There was an event in New York too that recently, a couple years ago, that had Van Halen's Frankenstein guitar and Page's Les Paul and some other things, probably Stevie Ray's guitar.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's a thing of beauty. The instrument. It's just incredible. And I'll tell you the secondary holy grail. So everyone goes for the 1959 Les Paul. That's the one, or 58, 59, 60, but 59 being the one, the creme de la creme.
Mm-hmm.
A nice sunburst with some flame maple. And then, but there's another one, which is the early 50s Blackguard Telecasters that are getting a lot of money now. And yeah, so I actually I don't have one of those. I've got a few different tellies, and I've got one that I bought that was built by a guy who worked at the Fender factory at that time. And so he makes his own guitars. They're called Nacho, and they're super high end, really like perfect to spec of these Fender Blackguards. And yeah, really, those are great guitars. David Lowey's got a 52 or 53 Esquire that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
That's a very desirable guitar. I think he bought that from Paul Stanley. Is what Richard Fortas set it up, where Paul was going to sell this guitar, and then he got that one.
So final question for you. I know you got to run, but you've been around a while. You've been in this business. You've seen a lot happen. And hopefully I get to talk to you more in the coming days and years. And
I would love that. Yeah. Thanks.
I think it'd be fun. But right now, at this point in your life, you're a dad, you're a husband, all that stuff. But fast forwarding ahead, when you step off of the great tour bus, of life up in the great gig in the sky to steal from Pink Floyd, how do you want to be remembered, and what do you hope your legacy is?
Well, definitely, the most important achievement for me is being a father. That's like the greatest, and I'm so thankful for being 11 years old and picking up a guitar and sticking with it. It's like it's brought me just endless amounts of both pleasure and pain, just over the years. But for the most part, I just I love it. So I would love for people to think of me as a great father and husband, like you said, and a musician that made some music that people liked, basically.
Cool. Well, I think you're tops, man. And this interview was fun. And my door is always open to you, Doug. If you got anything coming up, you want to get the word out, just let me know. We'll set one of these up and we'll make it happen. And like I said earlier, hopefully I can meet you down the road sometime in one of your stops with somebody, hopefully Dead Daisies. But if not, if you happen to be hanging around Whitesnake again or something, maybe, who knows, maybe we can meet in one of these shows. But
well, definitely look sooner than later. Let's try and make that happen. I have a feeling that, there's nothing set in stone, but I have a feeling that we'll be making the rounds at some point in your neck of the woods. And we appreciate you, Randy. Thanks for spreading the word, spreading the love of the band. And we love doing this together with our fans. So, just thanks to everybody.
It shows, man. I know you're real about it too. So we'll catch you down the road, and stay safe and enjoy that family time.
All right. Thank you, brother.
All right. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye.